November 2025, the desert of Cholistan in Punjab. The Pakistan Army's most senior leadership has gathered to witness something that has never been publicly demonstrated on Pakistani soil before. What they watched that day wasn't just a military exercise. It was proof, delivered in open sky in front of the whole world, that Pakistan has arrived at a new frontier of warfare. Dozens of drones are coordinating with each other in real time without a single human managing each one individually. Surveillance platforms feeding targeting data, loitering munitions, receiving that data and acting on it autonomously, simultaneously, from multiple directions at once. No concentration of force that a single missile could neutralize. No single point of failure. Just a wall of precision bearing down on its targets. The Pakistan Army called it a swarm drone demonstration. Defense analysts around the world called it a statement. Because what Pakistan showed that day in Cholistan wasn't just a capability, it was doctrine. A signal that country has not only acquired modern unmanned systems, but has built the strategy and the command structure to use them at scale. That command structure has a name, the Pakistan Army UAV Command. And today, we are going to break it down, how it came to be, what it operates, and why it matters. My name is Qasim, and you're watching Radar Mode on Pakistan Connect. Today we are talking about drones, specifically Pakistan Army drones. Because while most of the public attention around Pakistan's UAV fleet focuses on the Air Force, there is a dedicated Army drone command that has been quietly building capability, conducting counterinsurgency operations in the tribal belt, and now demonstrating swarm warfare in the desert. This is the story of how Pakistan went from watching American Predator drones hunt terrorists in its own territory to building a UAV command of its own. To understand why Pakistan's army needed its own drone command, you have to go back to the early 2000s and the American war on terror. When the US launched operations against Al-Qaeda and the Taliban after 9/11, it did so partly from Pakistani soil. Shamsi Air Base in Balochistan became a CIA forward operating location, and from that base, MQ-1 Predator drones, America's first-gen drones armed with Hellfire missiles, which are usually shot off from Apaches and Cobras, hunted targets in Pakistan's tribal areas. The Pakistani army watched this unfold in its own backyard. They saw what a drone could do that a fighter jet could not. It could loiter for hours over a valley. It could track a moving vehicle without being seen or heard from the ground. It could strike a single house without leveling an entire street. And it could do it all without risking the life of a pilot. That experience fundamentally changed how Pakistan's military thought about unmanned systems. If America could project this kind of precision power from the sky, and Pakistan was on the receiving end of it, then Pakistan needed to develop the system for itself. The army moved first on the ISR side, intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance. The OODA P-1 drone, designed by the state-owned Global Industrial and Defense Solutions, or GIDS, entered service with the Pakistan Army in 2008. It was basically a reconnaissance UAV. Simple, but it was a start. The lesson was clear. Drones were no longer a luxury, they were a necessity. Pakistan made its next leap in 2009 when NESCOM, the National Engineering and Scientific Commission, began work on a domestically built armed drone. The project drew on technology from China's Rainbow drone series developed by the China Academy of Aerospace Aerodynamics, and the result was given a very Pakistani name, Burraq, after the legendary winged creature of Islamic tradition. The Burraq made its first flight in May 2009 and entered official service in 2013. It was armed with an advanced laser-guided air-to-surface missile called the Burraq. And just in that moment, Pakistan became the fifth country in the whole world to successfully develop and field an unmanned combat aerial vehicle. That is a remarkable achievement for a country that had been under US technology sanctions just 2 decades earlier. The Burraq was built for one primary mission at that time, counterinsurgency, targeting militants in the mountains and valleys of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and the former FATA region. Low and slow, loitering over the terrain that helicopters could not safely approach. striking targets that foot soldiers could not easily reach. It was Pakistan's homegrown answer to the Predator. Both the Air Force and the Army received the Burraq, and it proved useful enough that it led directly to the development of the Shahpar family of drones. More on those in a moment. For years, drone operations in Pakistan Army were managed under the Army Aviation Corps. Drones were an add-on to the helicopter force or the rotary wing. But as the infantry grew in numbers, in diversity, in operational complexity, it became clear that drones needed their own command structure, their own doctrine, their own specialists. The Army UAV Command was formally established as a dedicated operational entity with its public reveal coming during Exercise Raad Fatah in November 2025. During that exercise conducted in Cholistan Desert in Punjab, witnessed by the Chief Army Staff General Syed Qasim Owais, the UAV Command showcased something that stopped people in their tracks: a coordinated swarm drone strike. Multiple indigenously developed loitering munitions and surveillance drones struck targets simultaneously, using decentralized decision-making and real-time data fusion. The drones did not need to be micromanaged from a ground station one by one. They coordinated with each other. They overwhelmed the simulated air defenses. They demonstrated what military planners call saturation strike capability, where you send so many drones at once that even the best air defense system cannot shoot them all down. This was not theater. This was a strategic signal to the region and to anyone watching closely. Before we get into the hardware, we need to answer a question that most coverage skips entirely. How does the UAV Command actually connect to the soldiers on the ground? Because owning drones is one thing, integrating them into a functional kill chain, from the generals in the headquarters all the way down to the officer calling in a strike at the forward line, that is something else entirely. Here is the honest starting point. Pakistan's army has not publicly released a table of organization for the UAV Command. How many battalions it has, what rank commands it, and how it is subdivided internally. That information is classified as it should be. But from satellite imagery analysis, ISPR footage from exercises, and confirmed deployment records, we can reconstruct the operational logic with some confidence. And that logic is actually quite elegant. The UAV Command operates across 3 tiers. And the most important thing to understand is that it is not structured in the way most of the army is structured. Infantry battalions belong to brigades, brigades belong to divisions, divisions belong to corps, and that is fixed, permanent hierarchy. The UAV Command works differently. It is a centralized specialist formation at the national level, sitting above the core structure that pushes capability downwards based on operational needs. Think of it less like a brigade and more like the Army Air Defense Command, a pool of specialized assets that corps commanders draw from when the mission demands it. At the top sits the UAV Command headquarters, operating under the GHQ. This is where the strategic decisions are made. Which platforms go to which corps, how airspace is deconflicted between Army drones and Air Force aircraft, what the mission priorities are, and how the satellite communication links that enable beyond line of sight operations are managed. This is the brain. The middle tier is the corps and division level. When a corps commander is given a UAV element, a liaison team from the UAV Command embeds with his headquarters. They bring with them the ground control stations, the SATCOM equipment, and the operators. From satellite imagery of the confirmed army drone deployments at Bahawalpur, at Turbat, and Balochistan, we know exactly what that deployment package looks like. It consists of 40-foot containers used as UAV transport and maintenance shelters, 2 sets of line-of-sight ground control stations, and a satellite dish for beyond line-of-sight coverage. One ground control station handles up to 3 drones simultaneously, so a standard deployed flight element is 4 to 6 aircraft, 1 or 2 GCS modules, and the SATCOM relay. That is the building block. The bottom tier is where it connects to the actual fight, the brigade and the battalion level. And this is where things get really interesting. Allocation authority, airspace management, SATCOM control, and mission priorities. This is in tier 1. This commands the platforms like the Shahpar II, the Shahpar III, the CH-4B. In tier 2, we're talking about operational controls, divisions, or the corps. At the tactical level, the Pakistan Army uses smaller, more deployable platforms rather than large MALE drones operated from the middle tier. The GIDS Ranger is a runway-independent VTOL tactical UAV, meaning it takes off and lands vertically with no need for a runway or a catapult launcher. It is designed specifically for ISTAR, intelligence, surveillance, target acquisition and reconnaissance, and critically for artillery fire correction. A forward observer at brigade or battalion level can use the Ranger to see what is on the other side of a ridge, identify a target, and immediately pass corrected coordinates to the artillery battery. No phone call back to the Corps, no waiting for an MALE drone to be retasked. The information flows directly from the Ranger's sensor feed to the firing gun. The loitering munitions sit at the same tactical layer. The Sarfarosh is canister launched, meaning a ground unit can carry it in a vehicle, set it up in the field, launch it, and send it towards a target area. Once it identifies the target using its onboard sensor, it dives. No runway, no ground control station, minimal crew. This is strike ability that a battalion commander can use and own without asking anyone above him for permission. Put the two together, and you have a complete tactical kill chain at the lowest level. The Ranger sees, the Sarfarosh strikes. The battalion is now its own sensor-to-shooter system. Military planners often talk about something called the OODA loop, the observe, orient, decide, and act loop. The side that completes this cycle faster than its opponent wins the engagement, because by the time the enemy is reacting to your last action, you've already moved on to your next one. Every step that requires coordination with the higher headquarters, every phone call for clearance, every airspace request filed with the Air Force, each of those is time added to the OODA loop. What the UAV command structure does, fundamentally, is compress that loop. If a Shahpar III detects a radar signature at 60 kilometers, that data reaches the ground control station in real time via encoded and encrypted data links. The authorized officer makes the call. A Sarkash loitering munition already airborne receives the target coordinates and dives. From the moment the target is detected to the moment it is struck, the entire cycle can run in under 2 minutes. There is no request to the Air Force, no wait for a sortie to be tasked. The Army owns the sensor, the command authority, and the weapon itself. The loop is closed entirely within one chain of command. That last point is more significant than it might sound. Before the UAV command was formalized, the Army had to go through the Air Force for strike support. That meant coordination between two different service branches, two sets of tasking authorities, and two different chains of command, all while a time-sensitive target is sitting in the crosshairs. The UAV command eliminates that particular dependency for the platform it operates. The ground commander now has organic fires from air. That is a fundamental change in how land warfare is conducted. The UAV command does not operate in isolation. It plugs into Pakistan's broader military network. The National ISR and Integrated Air Operations Center, the same system that coordinated Pakistan's air defense and strike operations during May 2025, links Army UAV sensors, Air Force fighters, space-based ISR assets, and ground-based systems into a shared data architecture. The Shahpar II, orbiting at 7,000 meters, can pass its sensor feed not just to the Army ground control station, but into the wider joint picture accessible to the Air Force commanders and even naval units simultaneously. The drone becomes a node in a national network, not just a tool for the corps it is attached to. That is what Pakistan's military means when it talks about multi-domain operations, something that I've been beating about for the past, 30, 40 programs. Not just having assets in multiple domains, but connecting them so that information flows seamlessly across all of them. The UAV command is one critical piece of that architecture. Now that we understand how the command is structured and how it connects to the flight, let's get into the hardware, the toys, the bells and whistles. The Pakistan Army UAV command operates a layered fleet, from tactical battlefield drones to medium altitude strike platforms. Let's go through them one by one. The Burraq UCAV, Pakistan's pioneer. We have already introduced the Burraq, but here are the numbers. It has a wingspan of roughly 8 meters and a maximum takeoff weight of around 1.1 tons. It carries the Burraq laser-guided missile and is equipped with electro-optical and infrared sensors for targeting. Its service ceiling sits at around 5,000 meters. It was the weapon that proved Pakistan could build and operate armed drones, and it is still in service today with both the Army and the Air Force. The Shahpar II is Pakistan's primary medium-altitude, long-endurance platform in the Army's inventory. Developed by NESCOM and marketed by GIDS, it is a significant step up from the original Shahpar. which entered service in 2012 and was purely a reconnaissance-focused aircraft. The Shahpar II arrived in 2021 with a much longer endurance, a higher ceiling, and critically, an armed variant. In surveillance mode, the Shahpar II can stay airborne for up to 20 hours. In its armed strike configuration, that drops to around 12 hours, still a long time to orbit a target area. It can carry the Burraq air-to-ground guided missile. Its 4 underwing hardpoints give it flexibility in loadout. And with SATCOM capability, it can operate well beyond the line of sight, meaning the ground control station does not need to be close to the action. In November 2024, at the Ideas Defense Exhibition in Karachi, GIDS unveiled Pakistan's most ambitious homegrown drone to date, the Shahpar III. Army Chief General Asim Munir personally unveiled the aircraft, which GIDS classified as Group 4 Plus UCAV, the same category as the MQ-9 Reaper that Pakistan has long aspired to field. The Shahpar III is substantially larger than its predecessors. It has a maximum takeoff weight of 1.65 tons and 6 underwing hardpoints, giving it a much heavier payload capacity. It features domestically developed avionics with a dual redundant flight computer control built on the military standard 1553 architecture, a military-grade standard that significantly enhances reliability and survivability. It is designed for ISR, close air support, ISTAR missions, and even maritime surveillance missions. The Shahpar III had its first flight in 2023 and was publicly revealed at Ideas 2024. It represents a transformative step. Pakistan is no longer just operating drones, it is now competing with the world's best in the MALE UCAV category. Alongside its indigenous platforms, the Pakistan Army also operates the Chinese-built CH-4B manufactured by the China Aerospace Science and Technology Corporation Rainbow UAV series. The Army acquired its first batch of 4 CH-4Bs in early 2021, deploying them initially at Bahawalpur Airport. Open source satellite imagery later confirmed their deployment to Balochistan as well, where they operated alongside Navy drones in joint surveillance and strike missions. The CH-4B is a capable medium-altitude drone with an impressive payload of 345 kilograms and endurance of up to 30 hours in reconnaissance configuration, dropping to about 12 hours when loaded out for a strike mission. It can carry a variety of Chinese precision munitions. For Pakistan Army's counterinsurgency and border monitoring missions, the CH-4B has been significant as an operational asset. The most dramatic evolution in the Pakistan Army's drone inventory is not in its MALE platforms, it is in its loitering munitions. These are sometimes called kamikaze drones or suicide drones. They fly to a target area, circle while searching for a specific target, and then dive into it. They are one-way weapons, which means once they have been launched, there's no communication happening with the ground station, but extraordinarily precise. The most significant new entry in this category is the GIDS Sarkash. Unveiled at Ideas 2024 alongside the Shahpar III, the Sarkash is a turbojet-powered loitering munition with a range of 1,000 kilometers, endurance of over 2 hours, and a 50-kilogram warhead, with a total weight of 175 kilograms. Some analysts compare its profile to a small cruise missile rather than a traditional loitering munition. And that distinction matters. A weapon that can fly 1,000 kilometers, circle and search, and then strike a high-value target is a genuine strategic tool. The Sarkash is designed to be compatible with the Shahpar III. In concept, a Shahpar III MALE drone detects a radar signature 60 kilometers away and cues multiple Sarkash units to strike from different angles simultaneously, creating a multi-axis saturation attack that is extremely difficult to intercept. Alongside the Sarkash, Pakistan has also showcased the Sarfarosh canister-launched kamikaze drone series, designed for rapid ground deployment, and the Blaze series of loitering munitions in 3 variants, Blaze 25, Blaze 50, and the Blaze 75, with ranges from 75 to 500 kilometers and different warhead sizes to suit different mission profiles. These give the Pakistan Army an extremely flexible and scalable loitering munitions arsenal. And let's not forget, during Exercise Raad Fatah, the UAV command demonstrated swarm strikes using the Burraq and Shahpar II integrated with these loitering munitions. Decentralized autonomous targeting, real-time data fusion. This is the Pakistani Army's version of what the world watched in Ukraine, updated and adapted for the subcontinent-specific threat environment. Now you might be wondering, Pakistan has the Air Force for drones. The PAF already flies the Wing Loong 2s, the Burraq TB2s, and the Akinchis. Why does the Army need its own dedicated UAV command? The answer is Doctrine. The Air Force operates at the operational and strategic level. Its drones cover long distances, support air campaigns, and contribute to the national kill chain. The Army UAV Command operates at the tactical and operational level, directly supporting ground forces in real time. When a unit in North Waziristan is in contact with militants, it does not have time to submit an air support request and wait for an Air Force asset to be redirected. It needs a drone that is already overhead, already loitering, already slaved to the ground commander's targeting authority. This is what the UAV Command provides: persistent, dedicated, organic drones capability for the Army on call all the time. And then there is the regional dimension. India has been dramatically scaling up its own drone capabilities, including Israeli-origin Harp and Harpy series loitering munitions deployed along the line of control. India has also ordered nearly 2,000 tactical drones and is indigenously developing swarm drone systems. The UAV Command is Pakistan's direct counter to that threat, a layered high-volume drone force that can saturate Indian air defenses and inflict costs at every level of escalation. After the events of May 2025, when India launched Operation Sindoor and Pakistan responded with Operation Bunyad al-Marsoos, the Pakistan military undertook a serious review of its drone doctrine. The creation and formalization of the UAV Command, alongside a new Army Rocket Force Command established in 2025, reflects a Pakistan military that is restructuring itself from the ground up. Multi-domain warfare. Drones are no longer an accessory, they are a central pillar. India's high-end drone capability, the Harp, the future MQ-9B, is almost entirely imported. That means it is subject to supply chains, export licenses, political relationships, and wartime logistics, constraints that India does not fully control. When India fired Harps during Operation Sindoor, every one of those missiles that struck a target was a missile that cannot easily or quickly be replaced without going back to Israel. And that is a strategic vulnerability. Pakistan's UAV Command, by contrast, is built on a foundation of domestic production. The Burraq was first in Pakistan. The Shahpar family was designed and manufactured in Pakistan. The Sarkash loitering munition is a Pakistani product. The Ribat targeting system is Pakistani. When the production lines are inside your own country, you are not dependent on a foreign government's approval to replenish your inventory during a conflict. That matters enormously. And India understands this problem, which is why post-May 2025 indigenous push is so urgent. But building a domestic defense industrial base takes years. Pakistan has been at it since 2009. That is a 15-year gap in indigenous drone production. To be fair and analytically credible, we should also acknowledge where India's doctrine gives its advantages. The MQ-9B Predator, when it arrives in 2029, will give India a genuinely world-class, high-altitude, long-endurance platform, superior in ceiling, payload, and sensor integration to anything Pakistan currently operates. Given that the MQ-9B Reaper was one of the most downed aircraft in the US-Iran conflict. India's Harp has proven combat effectiveness and has now been used in actual warfare against Pakistani targets. India's sheer scale of procurement, 31 Predators alone at $4 billion, reflects a defense budget that is significantly larger than Pakistan's, giving it ability to layer expensive imported systems alongside cheaper indigenous ones. In a prolonged conventional conflict involving large numbers of ground troops, that mass distribution of basic drone capability could prove significant, particularly in giving Indian battalion commanders a persistent ISR advantage at the tactical level. The doctrinal comparison ultimately comes down to this. India is building a wider drone force, and Pakistan is building a more capable and more sovereign one. India has the budget to eventually close the gap and then some, particularly once the MQ-9B fleet becomes operational. But right now in 2026, Pakistan's UAV Command operates more advanced indigenous platforms, has deeper domestic production capability, and has demonstrated more sophisticated swarm doctrine. The competition is real and is accelerating, and neither side is standing down. So what have we learned today? Pakistan Army's UAV Command did not appear out of nowhere. It is the product of 25 years of hard lessons, watching the Americans operate Predators from Shamsi, fighting a brutal counterinsurgency in the tribal belt, building the Burraq from scratch, and now fielding a fleet that includes indigenous MALE drones, Chinese strike platforms, and its own family of loitering munitions. The Shahpar III is a true breakthrough, a home-built, MALE UCAV that belongs in the same conversation as the MQ-9 Reaper. The Sarkash loitering munition is an asset with a 1,000-kilometer punch, and the swarm demonstration in Raad al-Fatah in Cholistan showed that Pakistan is not just acquiring individual drones, it is building a doctrine around them. When you compare it to India's drone trajectory, the picture becomes even clearer. India has the budget and is moving fast, but it remains deeply dependent on imported systems it does not produce itself. Pakistan's UAV command is built on domestic foundations. That sovereignty in production is not a small detail. In a conflict, it could be the difference between a force that can sustain itself and one that runs out of munitions while waiting for a foreign supplier to approve a reorder. The UAV command is now a permanent pillar of Pakistan's conventional military architecture. And as Pakistan's multi-domain modernization continues with the Rocket Force Command, the Space Command and Development, and the broader drive towards network-centric warfare, the drones flying overhead will only become more important, more numerous, and more capable. Pakistan's drone army is not coming. It's already here. That's all for this week on Radar Mode. I hope this gave you a clearer picture of one of Pakistan's most important and latest discussed military developments. If you found value in today's episode, please do us a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to Pakistan Connect, and share this video with someone you think needs to see it. Every share gets this analysis to a wider audience, and that means more to it. And that matters to us more than you might think. Drop your questions and thoughts in the comments below. We read them, they genuinely shape what we cover next. Until next time, my name is Qasim Owais. You've been watching Radar Mode, and I'll see you again next week.